morning, everybody. Tater here. And instead of our normally scheduled weekly wrap-up, I'm going to be doing a book review instead because I only read one book last week. And the only book that I read is Sandman, Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes by Neil Gaiman. Sandman follows the character Dream, who is from another realm and he is the king of dreams. And at the beginning of the story, we find him wrongfully imprisoned, and he has been that way for over 75 years. And throughout Volume 1, we see Dream, or Morpheus, readjusting to the world after he escapes his captors and relocating his tools of trade as they have been taken from him. We follow Morpheus through several different settings, from London to Hell to Gotham City to a madman's dreams, as he retrieves all of his tools and sets everything right around him. Now, a few of my personal favorite parts of the story would obviously be the art. It's very stylistic, it's very dark and very graphic, and that's what I love about it. Now, this is a very adult content type of comic. There is quite a bit of sexual violence and violence, which means blood and gore, so be mindful of that. There's also a lot of more adult language, so if you're younger than like 16 but you think you might be able to handle what I've mentioned, you should go ahead and give it a try. A few of my other favorite things about the comic included a certain caped crusader making a cameo during our hero's stay in Gotham City, and I really loved how Neil Gaiman kind of just snuck him in there. I also really enjoyed the Sandman himself, because the Sandman the character design was beautiful and his personality was amazing, and he kind of looked like Alan Rickman, which was also a high point for me as well. The Sandman himself is definitely a good main character, and I can't wait to learn more about him and spend more time with him as I continue on in the series. And as for favorite parts of the story go, I would definitely have to say my favorite chapters, or that I guess it would be different issues of the comic, would be 24 Hours and Sound and Fury. Those were two of the creepiest chapters I had ever read in a comic book, and I'm so over the moon joyful that Neil Gaiman snuck them in there because they were perfect, and I loved them. Now, as for things that weren't so kosher for me when it came to this book was, during the first few chapters, I was a little lost. The writing seemed a bit disjointed, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. Now, I read the afterword at the end of this book, and Neil Gaiman himself said that he thought that his writing was a bit disjointed, and he hadn't found his voice in this comic world yet, and that's because The Sandman was his first monthly comic. So he wasn't used to the type of writing that you had to do, so that would explain it. As I continued on in the chapters, I finally got a feel for the world, and I got a feel for the writing, and I understood how everything flowed. So if you pick this up and you find that the first few chapters, the first few sections of the book aren't catching your attention, I suggest you try and keep going, because it will start getting better, and I am assuming that in Volume 2 it's going to get even better. And the last thing that kind of bugged me about this is normally my beef with Neil Gaiman novels, and that's the cast of characters isn't exactly very diverse. It's mainly white people. Now, I understand that it's a horror comic and things that white people do are pretty damn scary, so I totally understand that, but I find that that's a real problem when it comes to Neil Gaiman books, is that he doesn't really write diverse characters, and I love the way that Neil Gaiman writes, so it kind of makes me sad when his stories aren't exactly very diverse, because I think that diversity in literature is extremely important, and it doesn't matter what medium you're using. So, besides the few problems that I had with The Sandman, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely suggest, if you're okay with darker, more adult comics, and you love Neil Gaiman, I suggest you pick up Sandman Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes, and then you'll probably end up like me and want to continue reading it very soon. That's all I've got to say for right now, guys. I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope that this upcoming week is going to be even better. Warm wishes from my bookshelf. Cheers. Bye.